It was a cold evening in Utah, 1983. The streets were quiet, the air was heavy, and the world was about to lose a young soul forever. Christine Gallegos, a bright, innocent 17-year-old girl, walked home like any other night, unaware that her name would echo in police files for decades. What happened next was so tragic, so haunting that it would remain buried under dust and silence for 40 long years. Time passed. The world moved on, but Christine's story stayed frozen. Her family prayed, investigators searched, and yet the case went cold. No one knew the face of her killer. No one knew that the truth was still out there, hidden in plain sight. But fate has its way of speaking, sometimes through science, sometimes through silence. Tonight we reopen the pages of one of Utah's darkest mysteries, a murder that refused to stay buried, a girl who deserved justice, and a discovery that shook everyone who ever doubted the power of DNA. Welcome to the Christine Gallegos case, solved. After 40 years, it was late. The streetlights flickered against the cold pavement as Christine walked home from school. She had a diary tucked under her arm and dreams tucked inside her heart. She was kind, shy, and full of life. But that night someone was watching her, a shadow following her every step, someone who knew how to blend into the dark. The sound of distant footsteps echoed through the alley. Christine looked back once, twice, and then her voice was gone forever. Hours later, her parents waited by the window, worried as the clock kept ticking. By morning, the world had changed. Christine didn't come home. The next day, police sirens broke the quiet calm of their neighborhood. A body had been found. It was Christine. The city fell silent. The Gallegos family's screams echoed through the halls of the police station. But the killer had already vanished, leaving behind only fear and unanswered questions. Detectives rushed to the scene, trying to piece together what had happened. They combed through evidence, searching for a clue, a sign, anything, but the 1980s had no DNA technology, no digital databases, no trace left that could be matched. Everything they had was paper and instinct. Witnesses described seeing a strange man near Christine's school, but his face was a blur, his name unknown. The officers interviewed dozens, yet the trail kept disappearing into darkness. The file labeled Christine Gallegos 1983 was placed in a cabinet, sealed with tape, and eventually forgotten. For Christine's parents, every day felt like torture. Every knock at the door, every phone call. They hoped it was news, but it never was. They aged, waiting for a truth that never came. The case grew cold like the Utah winter that took her. Years became decades. Investigators retired, files gathered dust, and Christine's name faded into history. Her friends grew older, her family moved away, but her mother kept her picture on the mantel, the same smile, the same innocence frozen in time. Every anniversary, she visited Christine's grave and whispered, "One day, I'll know." But that day never came, until science caught up with justice. In 2020, a young forensic analyst opened the old file. She saw Christine's photo, the evidence bag, and something clicked. A thought, a question. What if we tried DNA genealogy? That one decision would change everything. A mother's prayer was about to be answered, not by miracles, but by molecules. In a modern Utah crime lab, the old evidence was placed under a new microscope. Decades-old samples that were once useless now spoke louder than words. Scientists extracted DNA from the scene, fragments that had been waiting for 40 years to be seen again. The data was uploaded to genealogy databases, compared, cross-referenced, and tested again. Each click of the computer was a heartbeat, each result a whisper of truth. And then one night the screen flashed. Match found. Investigators held their breath. The DNA linked to a family line. Someone alive, someone close. The system had spoken. The ghost of the past finally had a name. The suspect's name was Donald Cox. To the world, he was ordinary. A quiet man living a normal life, working simple jobs, blending into society like any other face on the street. But his past had a shadow, one that he had buried deep. Detectives began surveillance quietly, retracing his history, comparing dates, movements, and connections. Everything fit. The DNA wasn't lying. This was the man who had taken Christine's life and managed to live freely for 40 years. But Donald Cox had no idea that science had finally caught up with him. For decades, he probably believed he was safe, that Christine's story would stay buried. But justice
has a long memory? The moment came quietly.
Detectives approached him outside a grocery store in Utah. They asked a few questions, confirmed his identity, and then handcuffs clicked. After 4 decades of silence, the killer was no longer free. In the interrogation room, Cox sat still. He didn't deny it. He didn't cry. He only stared at the table, as though he was reliving that night. For investigators, the wait was over. But the weight of what they found was heavier than they imagined. The news broke across Utah. Christine Gallegos, case solved after 40 years. People who remembered her story wept. Families of other cold cases began to hope again. Justice had taken time, but it had finally arrived. Christine's family was informed. Her mother, now frail and older, closed her eyes when she heard the name. She whispered, "Finally." Her tears weren't of joy. They were of release, of knowing that her little girl's story had finally been heard. At Christine's grave, people gathered with candles. Old classmates, neighbors, even retired detectives, all came to honor the girl who never got the life she deserved. Her story had inspired a generation of investigators never to give up. The wind was calm that evening, as if Christine herself was finally at peace. Her name, once lost in files, was now written in justice. In a world of crimes and mysteries, DNA became the voice of the voiceless. Christine's case wasn't just solved, it changed the way investigators saw cold cases forever. Each strand of DNA became a key, unlocking justice for those who could no longer speak. Scientists around the world took notice. More cases reopened, more families found closure. Christine's story became a symbol, proof that truth never truly dies. And for Utah, this wasn't just justice delayed. It was justice reborn. In the final confession, Donald Cox didn't explain much. He admitted to the crime, but no reason was ever good enough. Evil doesn't always come with a motive. Sometimes it's just a shadow in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was charged, and the Gallegos family finally saw his face. The face they had imagined for 40 years. The courtroom was silent. Tears rolled down her mother's cheeks as the judge read the words, "Guilty." 40 years later, a promise was kept. Justice was slow, but it came home. Today, Christine's name lives on as a reminder that every case, no matter how cold, still carries warmth. The warmth of love, memory, and truth. Her story has inspired new generations of forensic experts to keep searching, to keep fighting for justice. Her mother passed away shortly after the case closed, but with peace in her heart. The last words she said were, "Now she can rest." And somewhere, Christine's soul did. 40 years, one girl, and a truth that refused to stay buried. The story of Christine Gallegos isn't just about tragedy. It's about time, science, and faith colliding to deliver justice. If this story moved you, don't let her name fade again. Hit that subscribe button, share this video, and help keep Christine's memory alive, because somewhere out there another case is still waiting for its justice. Until next time. Stay aware, stay curious, and remember, truth always finds its way.